Level 1 data sorter. You are already inside the building. The lights above you are fluorescent and steady. The air smells faintly of recycled ventilation and old carpet. Conversations are quiet and precise. Your badge identifies you as Level 1 data sorter. You sit at a long row of identical desks. 3 monitors glowing in front of you. Streams of intercepted information pass across your screen. You are trained to observe without reacting. You flag anomalies. You discard noise. You do not ask where the data originates or what decisions it will inform. You understand that the longer you remain here, the more you will see. You also understand that seeing does not mean understanding, and understanding is not required at your level. At Level 1, your responsibility is volume. You process thousands of fragments each day. Emails, call transcripts, metadata clusters. You categorize patterns without context. The power you gain is subtle. You begin to recognize behavioral rhythms in strangers. You can detect deviation before others notice it. The cost is small but measurable. You stop responding emotionally to what you read. Disturbing content becomes texture. Urgency becomes routine. Your environment reflects your status. Shared desks. Open noise. No windows. You are one of many. You are watched for accuracy and speed. You are replaceable. Level 2. Analyst. The promotion moves you to a quieter floor. The desks are spaced farther apart. Conversations happen in low conference rooms with glass walls. You are no longer sorting fragments. You assemble narratives. You connect data points into assessments. You produce reports that move upward. Your name appears on internal briefs. Your conclusions begin to shape preliminary decisions. Your power increases because interpretation is influence. When you frame a situation as escalating, resources shift. When you label a threat as credible, attention intensifies. You are trusted with context. You gain access to classified layers previously redacted. The stakes increase. If your analysis is flawed, operations may fail. The psychological cost becomes clearer. You learn that neutrality is an illusion. Every report requires emphasis and omission. You decide what matters and what does not. Sleep becomes lighter. You replay conclusions in your head at night, calculating consequences. You begin to compartmentalize conversations. With friends outside the building, you cannot explain your work. Gradually, you stop trying. Your identity narrows to what you can discuss safely, which is very little. Level 3. Handler. Your environment shifts again. You are assigned a private office with controlled access. The lighting is softer. Screens line one wall, displaying live feeds and encrypted communication channels. You are no longer interpreting events from a distance. You manage human assets in the field. Your responsibility is direction. You assign objectives. You authorize payments. You evaluate risk in real time. The power is direct. When you instruct an asset to proceed, they move. When you tell them to withdraw, they disappear. You influence events beyond the building. Outcomes carry your imprint. Outcomes carry your imprint. The cost increases sharply. You hear the hesitation in an asset's voice before a risky meeting. You recognize fear but cannot respond to it emotionally. Attachment is discouraged. If an operation fails, you draft the report. If an asset is compromised, you initiate containment. You learn to speak calmly while delivering instructions that may alter someone's life permanently. Trust decreases. You are aware that your communications are monitored for compliance. You monitor others in the same way. Sleep becomes fragmented. You wake before dawn, checking encrypted updates. Relationships outside the agency thin further. You avoid spontaneous conversations. You measure every word. Your emotional responses flatten because they interfere with clarity. Level 4 Strategist. The office changes again. You move to a higher floor with limited access corridors. Meetings occur in secure briefing rooms with no windows. Walls display dynamic maps and predictive models. You are no longer managing single assets. You design operations across regions. Your responsibility expands to architecture. You construct multi-layered strategies that unfold over months. You coordinate analysts, handlers, and external partners. You evaluate geopolitical consequences. The power is structural. You influence not just individual actions, but entire networks. Stakes rise accordingly. A flawed strategy can destabilize alliances. A successful one can shift balances of power quietly. You are briefed on information few people see. You begin to understand the scale of the system. It is larger than you imagined. The psychological cost is cumulative. You must detach from immediate outcomes to see long arcs. Human variables become factors in models. You speak in probabilities rather than names. Sleep decreases further. Night briefings are common. Your phone vibrates with encrypted alerts. At irregular hours, trust narrows to a small circle. And even within it, information is compartmentalized. You feel the distance between who you were and who you are now, but you do not attempt to bridge it. Efficiency replaces curiosity. Level 5 Director. Your workspace is minimal and controlled. A private executive room overlooking the city skyline at night. The lights below move in patterns you can influence indirectly. Meetings are shorter. Fewer words are used. Decisions carry immediate consequences. Your responsibility is authorization. You approve operations that others designed. You allocate resources across divisions. You determine which risks are acceptable and which are not. The power is decisive. Entire initiatives begin or end with your signature. Influence extends beyond the agency. Government officials request your assessments. Corporate leaders seek quiet consultation. You operate at the intersection of information and action. You decide what becomes public and what remains concealed. The cost is isolation. Very few people speak to you without calculation. You sense the strategic intent behind compliments and objections. Emotion becomes muted because reaction introduces instability. You measure outcomes in metrics rather than stories. The hours stretch later into the night. The skyline becomes familiar from the inside of glass. You rarely notice weekends. When you do, they feel irrelevant. Your identity erodes further. Outside the building, you struggle to engage in ordinary conversation. Civilian concerns seem distant and abstract. You no longer share opinions casually. Every statement is assessed for implication. You understand that your perspective is shaped by classified knowledge that cannot be discussed. Gradually, you stop attempting to reconcile the two worlds. Level 6 Executive Director. The top floor is quiet. Access requires multiple clearances. The conference room is large and nearly empty, designed to minimize distraction. There are no unnecessary objects. Conversations occur behind sealed doors. No windows open. Your responsibility is narrative control. You do not simply authorize operations. You define priorities that shape global focus. You decide which intelligence streams receive emphasis. You influence how events are interpreted by those in power. The authority is comprehensive. You are briefed before most others know an event has occurred. You determine which truths advance and which remain contained. A single directive can alter diplomatic relationships. A reclassification can shift public understanding years later. You are aware of the fragility of perception at scale. You understand how information constructs reality for institutions and populations. The psychological cost is total. There is no one above you to defer to. Accountability is abstract and distant. Belonging is minimal. Conversations are strategic by default. Silence is common. The city below continues its routines without awareness of your decisions. You no longer experience events as a participant. You experience them as variables. At this level, you do not react to truth. You shape its presentation. You select angles. You approve. E-language. You understand that most people respond to narratives, not raw data. You decide which narrative stabilizes the system. You think back briefly to the fluorescent room, where you once sorted fragments without context. You remember feeling detached from what you saw. Now you see everything in structure and consequence. The detachment has become permanent. Civilian perception feels simplified, almost foreign. You cannot return to that framework because you know how easily it is constructed. The building is quiet at night. The executive floor is nearly empty. You sit alone in a controlled room, reviewing reports that will never be public. Power is complete. So is distance. The system does not require you to feel, only to decide. You no longer think like someone observing the world. You think like someone arranging it.